just like piano hand position. Just nice and curved. Well, hi there. It's me, Penny. I got out of the practice room. I'm at a park by a school near my house here in St. Catharines. And it's a beautiful day, as you can see, and you can hear there are some birds chirping in the background. There's some kids playing basketball over here, and I got mine too, so maybe I'll swing over a little bit later. But you know, I've been a little slow getting videos up on this channel here lately, not because I want to, but because I've had a number of other obligations on the go. Outside of my little YouTube life, such as it is, and those things have been taking the majority of my time, the largest of which is a concert that I have coming up next weekend actually, and it's a big one. It's also in person, so there will be no hitting the pause button and doing a repeat, you know, like we can do when we're making YouTube videos. We can edit all we want. In fact, when I'm making my performances, I kid you not, I probably take at least 20 takes of these pieces before I find one that I'm satisfied with. And even then, I'm not totally satisfied. But this is a live concert coming up, and I'm playing alongside of a silent film. I'm accompanying a silent film, and this film is 100 minutes long, and so that's 100 minutes of non-stop playing. It's a lot of repertoire. I've got about 25, 26 pieces on the program, and they're not works by Bach, believe it or not. This is an event that I created for the Chamber Music Society Mississauga, actually, and the film is called The Passion of Joan of Arc. It's from 1928, and I found this film last year, discovered it, saw it for the first time, and I was moved so deeply, and I thought, what a wonderful film to adapt some piano music to. So I've got music by some of the post-minimalist composers, Philip Glass and others. So that has been occupying a lot of my time, and along with some other things too, of course. And when that concert's over, I anticipate being able to get back to playing more of Mr. B's music and talking about it. But it had been on my mind for quite some time to just come out on a nice day and take the basketball, and I've also got my baseball glove, my baseball. I've got a couple of tennis balls. As I was gathering these tennis balls, you know, it says Pen on the front. My nickname is Pen, so that's appropriate. And I also got my golf club. I grabbed a pitching wedge and a couple of balls, because playing the piano is a lot like playing sports, and I've always loved playing sports and have been fairly natural when it came to most sports. There are some sports I'm no good at, like soccer, but when it came to throwing things, that I can do, actually, you know, there's if you think about it, piano hand posture requires a curved hand with rounded fingers, and so a good analogy is holding a baseball or a tennis ball. Same thing when you go to throw a ball, or to shoot the basket, whatever it is, especially tennis, and I have my tennis racket here too. There it is. But you know, in order to swing the racket or the golf club, whatever it is, you can't just do it from the elbow. In order to get a lot of power and nice arc to the ball, you really have to put your whole body in it. You have to rotate and use your hips and your torso and your legs, every part of the body. And I was interested a few years ago in swing mechanics. You know, when they analyze a golfer's swing or a baseball hitter's swing in slow motion, and it's interesting to watch each part of the body as it changes on the upswing and the downswing. And I just find that so applicable to piano playing. Of course, when we're playing the piano, we're dealing with up-down gestures and not side to side, but it's the same thing really. And good bounce in the wrist and use of the whole body for a full, warm, powerful, rich tone. So this is my chance to not only get a bit of exercise, some fresh air, and to just give myself a little bit of a break, because when I'm preparing for a concert, I'm really focused on that one program, and so it's impossible for me to be juggling repertoire for these videos. As much as I love Bach's music, I have to focus on this concert coming up and do well on that. So I'm giving myself a bit of a break. The mental health has not been so great lately, and these are stressful times, and so getting outside, I think, can help with that a lot. But I thought I could also just use this as a chance to just kind of get chatty. I know some of you are here for the chatty stuff and these outings, and I thank you for that. And others of you I know probably couldn't care less, and you would like to know how to practice Bach and play fugues well and all this sort of thing. And I'm here for that, and I will be back. But you know, you can only do what you feel you can do well. And today, given the headspace, it was this kind of a video day. So I hope you can forgive me for no Bach on the channel today. But you know, all of these things, and I have some books here, because even though I love sports and that, you know, I am a book freak, and all of these things help with my Bach playing. So this is actually, in fact, related to playing Bach's music, though not technically speaking and not with regards to voicing and all of that, but thinking and about music and sound away from the piano is equally beneficial to time spent at the instrument. Yeah, you know, speaking of mental health, had an interesting question come up from one of the viewers here, and it was about Bach's music, and do I think it can help with coping with mental health issues, melancholy, depression, anxiety, things like that. And I thought that was a really great question, really interesting. And yeah, I mean, I think everyone is different. Interestingly enough, even though Bach's music is what I most enjoy playing, and it is what I perform professionally. I do not perform pop music professionally. I perform classical music. I actually don't listen to a whole lot of it, to classical music. And I would say that playing Bach's music certainly does, as you know, brings me great joy and allows me a kind of escapism at the piano. But I wouldn't say that it's necessarily beneficial to mental health. It's not harmful, goodness. I mean, yes, it does have its benefits, but playing this music, it's such a difficult thing, and it requires so much concentration and so much physical dexterity and awareness of the body and listening, and you know, it's intense. I do love intense performances, that is for sure. And to play this music well, it's not a relaxing thing. So yes, it brings me mental benefits, but not in the same way as listening to Muzak or to the AM radio, having it on in the background. This kind of thing is actually what I find good for my mental health. And like Glenn Gould, who used to have the radio on, AM music, I think He called it musical wallpaper. I have some tracks that I found online. Muzak, music that they used to play in the shopping malls a long time ago, or in the elevator. Music from Kmart, this kind of thing. There's some really intriguing recordings that you can listen to online. I'll try to include some in the description. But this is what I listen to in the background as I'm puttering about and doing my chores and letting my thoughts wander about sound and my playing and my ideas. So ironically enough, it's the complete opposite of Bach's music that brings me mental wellness, I would say, and eases any anxiety and stress and depression. As well, it's interesting, a lot of music students and teachers, parents too, they appear to be interested in classical music and Bach's music, and of course that's wonderful, except that it falls largely under the guise of how to play this music well so that we can win a competition or win a prize, get a certificate and tell the world about it. And that just makes me want to head for the hills. I would almost rather have nothing to do with classical music than to have to face it on those terms. It's really repelling to me and brings me great anxiety, actually. So I don't know, maybe it's the Muzak that I feel I'm actually free from competition and that kind of thing when I listen to it. And anyhow, that does bring me a lot of joy and calmness in my life, which we all need. But you have to find it where you can. I grabbed a book off the shelf here. This is the Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. And this book was given to me by a teacher at the Eastman School of Music. She signed it here in the front. One of the voice faculty, actually. And I had this little post-it note here on the page, and I thought I would share it with you because it's good advice. And even though it's for people who write poems, I think we can apply it to music. He says, "You ask whether your verses are any good. You ask me. You have asked others before this. You send them to magazines, you compare them with other poems, and you are upset when certain editors reject your work. Now, since you have said you want my advice, I beg you to stop doing that sort of thing. You are looking outside, and that is what you should most avoid right now. No one can advise or help you. No one. There is only one thing you should do. Go into yourself. Find out the reason that commands you to write. See whether it has spread its roots into the very depths of your heart. Confess to yourself whether you would have to die if you were forbidden to write. This most of all, ask yourself in the most silent hour of your night, must I write? Dig into yourself for a deep answer." We have a very large airplane going overhead. Dig into yourself for a deep answer, and if this answer rings out in assent, if you meet this solemn question with a strong, simple, "I must," then build your life in accordance with this necessity. Your whole life, even into its humblest and most indifferent hour, must become a sign and witness to this impulse. Then come close to nature. Of course, it goes on, but that is it. And the competition really turns me off. But if I can just be in my own little space, creating and making music and sharing ideas that's meaningful to me and that I believe is meaningful to at least a few, that spurs me on. I got my little My Melody thermos here. Anyone who grew up in the 80s will appreciate Sanrio. Yeah. I see someone is enjoying watching me there on their front porch. Yeah, what else did I bring with me here? I have this book, The Poetics of Space by Gaston Bachelard. That's an interesting one, but I also brought just a little journal where I've scribbled a few of my favorite quotes from Theodore Leschetizky. I'm always going on about Leschetizky. He was one of the great piano teachers of the 19th century, and man, the students he taught, my goodness, just a who's who of great pianism in the early 20th century. And my teacher, that's another thing too. I've had some comments from viewers about their interest in my piano teacher at Manhattan School of Music. Constance Keene was her name. And she died in 2005. I was one of her last students, and boy, did we hit it off. We were very close. She was in her 80s, and I was there for my doctoral studies, and I took notes. Go me! Pat on the back for that. I took notes, everything I could remember after each of those lessons. And I've got a notebook full of those stories and quotes from her. And I've been trying to figure out what to do with that. I had always thought I would write a book about it, but now I'm seeing no, because frankly there are people who knew her for a lot longer than I did, and probably a lot of bridges I would have to cross to get it published, and I'm just not sure I want to sacrifice time that could be spent practicing Bach. And yet, I've got this little platform here on the channel, so maybe, if you're interested, you can let me know. But I'm thinking I might, over time, share a few little tidbits from my lesson notebook. But I bring her up because Constance Keene, her training held links. If you think of music teachers as your family DNA, then she was musically related to many of the greats. Abram Chasins, who was her piano teacher and later her husband, he had studied with Joseph Hoffman, who had studied with Anton Rubinstein, and so she had links to Rubinstein and ultimately to Beethoven. And she also studied with Lotte Mills Huff, who was a student of Leschetizky. A kid just walked by and looked at me like I'm nuts. I am. I realize it. But Constance Keene, she also studied with Lotte Mills Huff, who had studied with Leschetizky. And of course, Abram Chasins had studied with Ernest Hutchison, who had studied with Bernhard Stavenhagen, who had studied with Franz Liszt. The lineage is pretty impressive. And her playing was very much of the grand romantic tradition. And while I do not play romantic repertoire, at least not for public consumption, that spirit is on fire in me, for sure, in my Bach playing. And so I think that's why I feel such a link to Theodore Leschetizky's, at least what I've read about him. Obviously, I never knew him. He died in 1915. But there have been books written by his students, and I've even narrated some of them in a podcast that I had going a year or so ago when the pandemic was raging. But I scribbled down a few of those quotes here. This is a good one here. This is from, I think these are all from, they're all from Ethel Newcomb's book. And he said, Leschetizky, "Don't ask me what it means. The music means what it says to you. I cannot tell exactly what it means to you, and you will probably never know what it means to me." So it is in life. One smiles where another is serious. And this is interpretation. Love that one. Oh, what else we got here? Fantasy. Oh, I love that word when I think of that at the piano. Fantasy. Leschetizky said, fantasy is the word, and fantasy means absence of rule. And then he said, oh, let me get out to the country, which is not so complicated, where I can recognize myself and where I do not have to account for every word or every smile. That's what I am doing here. Much less complicated here. An artist must look up and not down. If art is worth anything, it is to keep you from becoming sordid and narrow. Get as far away as possible from such people. Amen to that, Theodore. And a couple more here, 2 more for you. This one he's quoting Grillparzer. He says, where your work is, there also should your home be. My boy, was he anticipating pandemic living. But really, I think what that says is when you love what you do, it's in every aspect of your life. It's in your home. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. When you love something, it's always on your mind. Yeah, so I guess that's about it. Oh, here's one more. You can get your softest as well as your strongest tones from the arm with a firm wrist. Yeah, I was using my wrist today when I was swinging this golf club. It's okay. So it's nice to be out here, and still haven't had anyone over to my house, except for you. It's been a long time. Yeah. But anyway, we're managing. What else have I been listening to? I mentioned those Muzak, various recordings. I found this Frank Sinatra song that I just cannot stop listening to. It's called The World We Knew, or you might hear it titled Over and Over. But The World We Knew, that song, oh, I love that song. And Peggy Lee, I love her singing. That song of hers, Is That All There Is? I don't know if you know this song, but boy, those 2 songs seem to suit the times, seem to suit the way things are right now. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying some change of scenery. It's good to get out of that house, I tell you. I do have flowers are growing like mad. St. Catharines, this city, is known as, it's called the Garden City, and they're not kidding. Like, I have to do basically nothing for a huge bouquet of wild roses, both in my front and backyard, and they smell beautiful. I clipped a couple for my living room, put them in a little glass. There must be 50 of them still. I've got some white peonies and some lavender. We got lilacs in the back, although they're kind of past their prime. They're a little bit wilted, kind of like I've been feeling lately. I don't talk too much about my personal life, but fun facts, I'm an only child. No brothers or sisters. Always would have liked to have one, someone to play with, but I occupied myself very nicely. Yeah, and I haven't lived in St. Catharines for very long. Was actually born in Peace River, Alberta. That's in northern Canada. And we moved when I was 5 to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. And that's northern Ontario. That's still quite far from where I am right now. Maybe a 9 or 10 hour drive, I would say. I've lived in, of course I was in New York for many years, at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, for 6 years. I did my undergrad and master's degree there, and then went to Manhattan School of Music in New York City. I was there 5 years, I think, for my doctoral studies, and then I moved to Toronto, had a cute little apartment near St. Clair West, which if you're interested in Glen Gould, you'll appreciate that because Glen Gould used to have that apartment at 110 St. Clair Avenue West. So I was very near that. It was a lovely area. My apartment building was from the 1920s and it was really quite charming. It had this little Art Deco fireplace and these old stone in the hallways, in the corridor inside. Yeah, so I lived there for, I don't know, maybe 4 years. And then I lived in Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatchewan. That's in the prairies of Canada for a couple years. And I've lived in Mississauga, which is a suburb of Toronto. That's when I was working for Steinway. Some of the nicest pianos on the face of this earth. One day I will have one if I win the lottery. And of course here we are in St. Catharines. But I suppose I should wrap this video up and get to practicing and preparing for this concert. I also have a birthday coming up, day after that concert, so we will be recuperating on the birthday. But thanks for coming along with me for a day in the park. Sunday after, what is that Sondheim musical? Sunday in the Park with George. This is Sunday in the Park with Pen. We'll be back soon for more of Bach's music and some teaching practice tips, etc. I hope you're well. Thanks for watching and happy practicing. Bye-bye.